As your 2020 CACJ president, please allow me to express my appreciation for your decision to join us here at the 47th Annual Criminal Defense Seminar and Awards Ceremony. So this ain't the NICO, but it will have to do until next year. And rest assured, your seminars committee has done a stellar job to ensure the program you're enjoying will meet or exceed the experience that you would have attending in person without any of the travel hassles and hotel costs. Now set your thermostats, fill your glasses, your snack trays, or your PJs, and enjoy the spacious amenities of your living rooms or office while we transport you to our signature seminar of 2020, beginning with our esteemed Executive Director, Stephen Munkhill, to fill you in on the year 2020 for CACJ. Stephen?
Thanks, Eric, and welcome all to the luncheon program for our 47th annual seminar. CACJ is a resource and a tool for every one of you, a place you can come to get training, the latest strategies in criminal law from the forum and flash, breaking news from the courts, media, and government. It is your organization that sues to lower inmate populations during the pandemic and fights for reform in the legislature every year. CACJ also represents your interests with the Penal Code Revision Committee, with the California Lawyers Association, the NACDL, and many other organizations in order to increase your influence and become a more powerful advocate for change. Nearly everything CACJ does is done by unpaid volunteers serving as your officers and board of governors and those members who step up to make a contribution. Every one of you has the ability to make CACJ stronger. If each of you commits to getting just 2 attorneys in your local bar to join CACJ, you will strengthen our voice and help stabilize the organization in these uncertain times. If you are able to make a larger commitment, then join one of our standing committees, legislative, membership, technology, brief bank. There's lots of choices. Whatever your special interests or ability may be, there's a spot where you can contribute. During the last year, CACJ has had a tremendous impact on legislation. We have had a significant impact through litigation, and in spite of the challenging circumstances of the pandemic, we have managed to keep this organization stable and producing relevant content and support for all of you. I'm proud to say the organization is lean and efficient. We have just 3 employees to maintain the organization and support all of the work. Compare that to more than 40 at NACDL, if you want some idea of how lean we are. So if you want to do something for CACJ and the cause of justice, help us build the resources, help us with membership, volunteer your time. We can do more with your help. Thanks.
I'm soon to be your past president, one of many. And as I am on the cusp of my new duties in the year 2021, please know that you have all, each and every one, made my year as CACJ president a unique and memorable one. And I do hope that I have given each of you the leadership and representation that you deserve and expect from your CACJ president. You have entrusted me with the mantle of leadership, and I have done all I can to be deserving of that mandate. The office of CACJ president requires one to be keenly aware of membership's expectations, overlooking no individual opinion, perspective, or concern, and then to try one's best to fulfill those expectations, to personify the direction that the organization has chosen to take through its board of governors, to keep our goals in focus and to marshal every bit of energy that we can concentrate into realizing a future where the precepts of CACJ may be embedded and thrive. We find your views in every aspect of CACJ's institutional reach. The scope of CACJ's influence is expanded nationwide because Our achievements exemplify progress, enlightenment, and the fair administration of justice. California is a model of things to come. Why? Because of you, your ethics, your beliefs, your highly esteemed professional abilities, and your willingness to share ideas in service to CACJ's long-standing and influential committees. Your membership and involvement, particularly those on our flagship committees, have been of great service to CACJ. We can't do it without you. Each and every one of you is essential to CACJ's ongoing success. Thank you for the privilege of my year as president of the California Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers.
Now we have the Legislator of the Year Award, given to a member of the Assembly or Senate who has assisted CACJ in positive reform of criminal justice. This year, we have two recipients, both receiving the award for their special roles in the passage of AB 3070, CACJ's sponsored bill to reform the Batson procedure and eliminate racial discrimination and other discrimination in jury selection. First, we have Senator Melissa Hurtado. Senator Hurtado is being recognized for her role in the final passage of AB 3070. This legislation faced fierce opposition from almost every elected district attorney in California and many in the judicial field as well. Outside the legislative session, experts doubted it could ever pass. But on the final day of the legislative session, when it was one vote short of passage in the state Senate, Senator Hurtado, who had devoted a great deal of time to researching and reviewing the language of the bill, with less than an hour before the midnight legislative deadline, cast the decisive vote. So the bill passed the Senate and went on to the Assembly and then the governor. CACJ realizes that many of our legislative campaigns can be controversial, and we could not be successful without the willingness of many legislators to take bold and courageous stands, as Senator Hurtado did here. We honor her for making the passage of the bill a reality and for her emerging interest in criminal justice reform. Senator Hurtado was not able to join us today, but we will deliver her award to her office. Next, we have Assemblymember Shirley Weber. Assemblymember Weber has been a strident advocate for social justice and criminal justice reform during her tenure in the legislature. Weber has collaborated with CACJ on a number of proposals in the past and has been a previous recipient of this award. CACJ is honoring her this year for her authorship of AB 3070. Assemblymember Weber invested unmatched energy and insight and fought to get this bill through the legislature and signed by the governor. We thank both of our award recipients for their work on behalf of criminal justice and reform.
Hi, I'm Assemblymember Shirley Weber, and I really want to thank you for inviting me to be a part of this event this evening. I know so many of you put a lot of love and energy in organizing this, and I think given this environment in which we find ourselves, it's quite remarkable that we still find the time to be human, to say thank you, and to greet each other in ways that probably we've never done before, but nonetheless, just as effective. So I want to thank you for inviting me today. I also want to thank you for those of you who sponsored AB 3070. Without the support of so many of you, there's no way in the world we could have taken this bill to the finish line and gotten the governor to sign it. Going from committees to meetings and meeting with the justices and on, we were able to get the kind of support that you gave us and that others gave us to make this the best bill we could, but most importantly, to bring the kind of change that was so essential. California is really on the verge of doing some very progressive legislation, and this bill, AB 3070, is one of those. It will give some individuals the opportunity that they've never had before to participate in the civic process by serving on the juries. And I know how important that is, because when my husband told me there's no way this side of heaven or hell any judge would ever put me on a jury, being married to a lawyer and a judge. I made it my business to get on a jury. And I convinced the judge that I could be an impartial juror despite the fact that my husband was a lawyer and a judge. And I've actually served on 3 juries and served as the foreman in one of those juries. And I felt honored because I knew how important it was that I was sitting there on behalf of people who look like me, who were not only my color, but my gender and my age, and could actually be a part of a diverse group of individuals to make an important decision about someone else's life. So I want to thank you once again for making this possible, making AB 3070 important in California, to open up opportunities for those that have been denied participation in juries, and to really work hard to make California a fairer and safer and more just society. So once again, thank you so very much for this honor. I am honored to be here, and I thank you again, and I am looking forward to seeing what we have next year when we look at our package and see what other kinds of justice issues we can work together on to make a difference for California. Thank you so very much.
President Eric Schweitzer, back with you all for the Skip Glenn Award, the year 2020. It's not every year that we award this prestigious matter to anyone. Only once in a while, we find that a young lawyer has distinguished himself or herself for this very special award that is reserved typically for those under the age of 40 who have distinguished themselves as Skip Glenn did. And our awardee this year is exceptional. He shows tremendous promise, and we're doubly blessed this year to have Skip Glenn's son, Geoffrey Glenn, provide the presentation of the award to its intended recipient, Mr. Sajid Khan. Geoffrey?
Thank you, Eric. First, let me say actually just how honored I am to be here today. I just can't express how much this means to me and my family, my sons, daughters, and my grandchildren. You know, on Monday, I had an opportunity to call Sajid and speak with him in private. And I can tell you that after that phone call, I even feel more blessed to be part of the ceremony today. He's just such an amazing person. And I'm really glad to see that his 2 sons are with him in the audience, if you haven't noticed. So in preparing for this award, I've really thought about my father, and it's been 40 years since he passed away, which just seems surreal. But one memory has stood out that I think kind of exemplifies the spirit of the award. I'd just quickly share. We were coming back from court after lunch during the Skyhorse Mohawk trials. It was 1978, and we rounded the LA Times building, and a group of Iranian demonstrators were there protesting kind of the misreporting of the Cinema Rex fire in Iran. And as we were walking by, the police arrived, and they got out their riot gear, and they basically pressed the group of protesters in the entryway of the building and began batoning them. And I remember people were being pulled out. They were bloody. They were being laid out on the sidewalk. Their hands were zip tied behind their back. And I remember this moment where it's kind of like everything ceased, and it was paralyzed. And I look over, and my dad just steps off the curb into the police unit and starts insisting that these people get medical attention, that they have the zip ties removed. And I kind of realized at that moment that my father was more than an attorney. You know, it was more about his ideas about law, about justice, about dignity were hardwired, and they were part of who he was, and they were, you know, it was how he saw the world and how he saw himself in it. And after speaking with Sajid, I had that exact same sense of him. I mean, I was really honored to know that that spirit's alive in him. You know, if you read his CG or you read his CV and you look at his bio, I mean, he's certainly a competent and capable attorney. But I think what also defines him is his insistence, his blogging, his writing, his training, his protesting, the stand that he's taken for Black Lives Matter. I think these are the things that define him outside of the courtroom. And I think this is exactly what kind of the Skip Glenn Award represents, right? This commitment, even when it comes at a personal cost, and even when it extends past the clock from 9 to 5. And so I am absolutely happy that I can be here today and honored to be able to present the award in my father's name to Sajid Khan and to have his sons present while I congratulate him. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Eric Schweitzer, Tara DeRay, and the CACJ board and membership for bestowing me this award. I feel so blessed and honored. I'm especially honored to receive this award in the spirit and legacy of Mr. Skip Glenn. It's so touching to be mentioned alongside Mr. Glenn, a Santa Clara County legend known for zealous, tenacious trial advocacy, and to be associated with the words associated with him: tireless, unselfish, and dedicated. It's a great honor to be receiving this award from his son, Jeffrey, and it was a great honor to meet with you and have the gift of the recent phone call and conversation. One thing that I learned from that call that was so special and heartwarming is that Jeff's mom would send him and his two younger brothers to watch their dad, Skip Glenn, in trial, even if it meant sometimes missing school. Jeff told me that their dad was their superhero. I can only hope to model righteous and appropriate anger and an intolerance for injustice and oppression for my sons, Suleiman and Shakur, who are with me here today, in the way that Skip did for Jeff and his brothers. I was also reminded that this beautiful, fulfilling, necessary work comes at a cost. It can, without affirmative and deliberate caretaking, irreparably tax our souls, our bodies, and our families. So let's resolve to commit of ourselves to this cause and the people we serve, but also to commit to taking care of and honoring ourselves so we can sustain in this work, while also loving ourselves and our loved ones in the way we and they need, deserve, and desire. I'm also honored to receive this award alongside fellow award recipients and my colleagues and role models, Michael Ogle, Kelly Kulik, David Lucio, and Christina Reynoso, who exonerated the innocent Mr. Lopez at a trial early this year. I'm also grateful to my parents, Malika Khan and the late Dr. Mehboob Khan, for modeling lives of service, diligence, and grace. Their tireless work, both professionally and in the community, stands as the foundation for my career, choice, and accomplishments. Their voices for justice lay beneath mine. I'm also thankful to the boy's mother, Salaha Pirzada, for her consistent and continued support. I'm thankful to all the people that helped me launch into this beautiful career and calling. Brian Matthews, Jay Rorty, Nancy Brewer, Susan Hutcher, David Coleman, Mary Greenwood, and Joe Guzman. I'm thankful for mentors and role models like Michael Ogle, Thompson Sharkey, Mano Raju, and Brendan Woods. I'm thankful to my current and past supervisors who lead, guide, and support me: David Epps, Molly O'Neill, JJ Kapp, Mark Becker, Chris Givens, among many others. I'm also thankful to the staff, attorneys, and investigators at the Santa Clara County Alternate Defender's Office, who are the bedrock of any of my professional accomplishments. I'm so grateful to my freedom-fighting colleagues and friends at both the Santa Clara County Public Defender and Alternate Defender's Office, and especially to my friend and friend Avi Singh for his wisdom, partnership, and brotherhood as we attempt to tell the stories of the people we represent and transform and humanize the criminal legal system. I'm thankful to other colleagues on this journey of public defense, including Jamie Fader, Kristen Carter, Tony Flemmer, Carly Ware, Mahira Siddiqui Mir, Andres Del Alcazar, Young Lei, Anjali Bhargava, Krista Henneman, Yamini Rao, Jessica Burt-Smith, Sarah Ruby, Evan Hoppen, Nasreen Baroudi, Mondana Mustofi, Madeline Rodriguez, Ashanti Mitchell, and my former colleague Kwang Wen, as well as my partner Iman Bundawi. I'm thankful to the courageous folks at Silicon Valley Debug like Sharice Domingo and Raj Jayadev, who support my work, inspire me, and help me honor the humanity of the people we represent and their families. And finally, I'm thankful to the people we represent. We as defenders have special access to sit with and talk to the beautiful, beautiful people we serve. We get to share space with them in jail and juvenile hall interview rooms, courthouse holding cells, and at council tables. We receive their stories, hold their vulnerabilities, and bear witness to their humanity. We then attempt to shine a light on those stories and that humanity amid an inhumane system that strips them of dignity. We call them by their names rather than bodies: defendant, monster, murderer, molester, and sex offender. We zealously fight for their rights and ensure that they're not convicted unless there's sufficient legally collected evidence. We ask judges and DAs to not define them by their worst moments. We understand and unearth the roots of their crimes. We tell their stories. We hope for, believe in, and highlight their capacity for rehabilitation. For so long, we've been yelling into the void in the largely empty courtrooms, our pleas often falling upon deaf ears of juries and judges, forced to watch as the people we represent get crushed by a system marked by the death penalty, LWOP sentences, 3 strikes, gang enhancements, mandatory minimums, and prosecuting kids as adults. There's tremendous beauty and resilience in those fights, and we continue to hold one another so we can get back up to fight again despite the devastation. But in these moments in our counties, state, and country, it feels different. The collective conscious feels the inhumanity of mass incarceration. People are opening their eyes to the generational impact of systemic racism that forms the foundation of our criminal justice system. Legislators are writing and enacting bold new laws like SB 1391 and SB 1437. The soil is fertile for system reimagination and transformation. So, for the people we represent, past, future, present, and future, and to honor someone like Skip Glenn, let's continue to claw, fight, and yell in and out of the courtroom for a reimagined criminal legal system, rooted in values of mercy, compassion, empathy, and redemption. A system where their and Black lives matter, and a system alive with the spirit of healing and honoring the most vulnerable among us. Thank you again to CACJ, to Mr. Schweitzer, to Mr. Glenn and his family for this tremendous honor and award.
And now we have Kevin Phillips presenting the Significant Contributions to Criminal Justice Award to Jeff Thoma. This is the Donald Wright Lifetime Achievement Award, recognizing an entire career of commitment to justice and the law. It carries the name of the first recipient, California Chief Justice Donald Wright.
Hi, I'm Kevin Phillips. Jeff Thoma was raised by his grandmother within walking distance of Wrigley Field, where he spent a lot of time growing up. He's been on his own since he was 17 years old when his dad kicked him out of the house. He finished high school on his own and then joined the Air Force. For the time that he was learning to be a weatherman in the Air Force, he went to 3 different colleges in Minnesota, Nebraska, and Kansas. When he was honorably discharged at the end of the Vietnam War, he went to the University of Illinois in Champaign, where he wrote a sports column for the school newspaper and started his own newspaper, as he had done in the 6th grade as well. He went to USD Law School, or Harvard of the West, as he keeps reminding me. He law clerked for District Court Judge James Brennan in Las Vegas, and then I think it was in 1983, joined the Orange County Public Defender's Office, where I worked at the time. Before we ever met, we had the same client who had 2 different DUIs, and we arranged for him to plead out to 2 first-timers on the same day, and no one was ever the wiser. Of course, change of plea forms have changed since then, but that was nice. Then we worked in 2 different courts together and became best friends. He left, however, too early and went to Humboldt, but he only stayed there a year when he was a bed and breakfast operator and a district attorney for a short period of time. He returned to Orange County and left again real short period of time. He went to Santa Cruz and then the San Diego Public Defender's Office, where he pulled double duty in the writs and appeals section and doing felony trials. He learned DNA. Boy, did he learn DNA. He became the DNA expert in California. And while he was doing the double duty in San Diego, I remember he had 1 felony murder trial where the alleged victim of the murder was a fetus. The judge, however, wouldn't allow any evidence of viability. And so he lost that case, but kept it on appeal himself. And the Supreme Court granted review and eventually reversed the conviction. While in San Diego Public Defender's Office, he was one of 2 lawyers and the only public defender on President Clinton's Future of DNA Evidence Commission. He left San Diego in '97 when he became the public defender for Mendocino County, where he successfully recused a judge from hearing any public defender's case due to the judge's cozy relationship with the district attorney's office. While Mendocino public defender, he won a number of murder trials, a very large marijuana case, created the alternate defender's office in Mendocino, and instituted a rigorous training program. In 2004, he left Mendocino to become the public defender of Solana County, where he instituted a training program that became a week-long trial college for felonies and included members of other public defender's offices. So it's my great honor and pleasure to introduce my best friend, Jeff Thoma.
Thank you, Kevin. Really more than I am, but I really do want to take this opportunity to thank everybody involved in CACJ for the opportunity of a lifetime of serving CACJ. First, I want to thank my grandmother who raised me from age 3 when she was 60 years old, my first grade teacher, Zena Berman, Coach Curry, the Cubs as growing up, as Kevin just referred to. I was really lucky along the way. I like to consider almost everything in my life that happened good for me happened almost totally by accident. Alan Erkin says everything in his life did, but almost totally for me. I did end up at the University of San Diego Law School and ultimately had several jobs at USD, including at the law library, running the criminal clinic, and some other things. But most importantly, I started as a clerk for Woody Clark, who was the research attorney for San Diego Superior Court. And amazingly, our bond kept through the rest of Woody's life. And I was so fortunate to be such a good friend of his. And I'll mention a couple times how our paths came together. We worked with Judge Aaron Freund, who had worked at Nuremberg, and we learned so many different things about justice from this sage judge. Out of law school, I was hired by Judge James Brennan, 12th District Court Judge in Las Vegas, Nevada. Clark County was really burgeoning at the time. It was a great place to learn. And I clerked for him for a year and learned so much, including getting to write a dissent on Howard Hughes versus Los Angeles Airways for the Nevada Supreme Court, as Judge Brennan's sat in the Supreme Court from time to time. It was a great year for me, probably the best job I've ever had, but I did lose my grandmother, who had been to my graduation from law school and told me it was the proudest day of her life, which to this day moves me. Lydia, the JA, Sherry, the bailiff, Susan, the clerk, and the judge made it incredible. At the end of that year, the public defender's office was expanding, and I was hired by public defender Morgan Harris. Bob Amundsen was my team chief, and he's the one that really got me so interested in being a public defender. I look back and I just have to thank Bob Amundsen for seeing something in me that I could do this. I went to Santa Cruz, got very involved in CACJ even back then, and then went on to San Diego, where the new San Diego Public Defender Office was starting. Got to meet some great lawyers, Henry Coker, Bill Yeomans, hired by Frank Bardsley, who was another great lawyer. And just as I arrived, DNA arrived on the scene in California, and what a godsend DNA was for me. In 1990, I got 2 big cases, one of which was Troy Washington, the first big DNA case in San Diego, and the other was Bobby Davis, Terrell Davis's brother, and Kevin related that case that I took to the Supreme Court. The Troy Washington case, I lost at trial as well, but both were set up and both won on appeal. And it was exciting to see that come to fruition. Fortunately for me, with Whitney Ryan as my law clerk, I had great confidence in my abilities in DNA because I just kept learning more and more, and Whitney helped me get a good solid foundation with her scientific background. I became the office's then CPDA's expert, and then our national expert on DNA, and was contacted by my true life angel, Susan Tenquan, our angel, to do CACJ ledge work on the 1990 DNA Act. So we started having meetings with then State Senator John Vasconcellos, the head of public safety, and we worked some magic on that legislation. As time went on, 3 years later, at the capital case defense seminar that I had gone to, Susan Tenquan, Cliff Gardner, who I had already come to admire from a great argument he had done on the Supreme Court, and Bob Moran, who is now a judge in Washington, D.C., all asked me to sub in for the great Barry Scheck, who had been delayed in Los Angeles during the OJ trial. I gathered up what I could and gave a couple of lectures during that time, and the rest sort of is history. I was fortunate enough to get Ellen Kreitzberg asked me to onto the faculty of the Death Penalty College. I kept on the faculty of the Capital Case Defense Seminar for many, many years. And between two death penalty trials I had in San Diego, I applied to be the public defender for Mendocino County. I was familiar with Mendocino County, having lived up in Northern California previously, and was hired in February of 1997 after my 7 years in San Diego. We did our first training program, I remember, right after the Death Penalty College ended, and I had Steve Wright, Jerry Fisher, who's now judge in Washington, D.C., come up there, and we did the lecture in a courtroom. Steve Bright did an incredible closing argument and took them all what we call around the block up through Humboldt County. It's something I'll never forget, and I hope Steve and Jerry don't either. But I'd like to thank Al Monaster, Paul Fitzgerald, may he rest in peace, Michael Kennedy, Captain Motion, and so many others that helped us with our training programs. We did over 20 programs up in Mendocino County during that 7.5 years that I was the director there. I had been a director in CPDA for years, and then an officer until January of 2002, when they removed me because I was doing seminars within the office. And it just so happened CACJ President Phil Schneerson saw me speak at the NACDL Innocence Network at Caesar's Palace and approached me and asked me to come on the board with Susan being ill for the first time. A bit reluctantly, but appreciating the timing, I started working with the capital case programs and seminars and kept doing legislation regarding science and did what I could on the board. In 2004, our son Charlie was born right after I got hired as the Solano County public defender, and we started doing seminars there. In 2005, I became CACJ Seminars Chair, selected also for the DNA Commission by President Clinton and Attorney General. Since I came in as Seminars Chair or Co-Chair over the years, we've had Brian Stevenson, Barry Scheck 3 times, Steve Bright several times, Al Monaster, Chuck Zuvela, and Jeff Adachi, Milton Grimes, Peter Neufeld. So many people that have given of their time and of their effort for CACJ. I just keep going and taking notes as if I were going for the first time. We have become the preeminent CLE in California defense. It's because of all of you, not because of me. I just kind of stand up at the lectern and introduce people. We have Larry Posner for annual programs with a close association with us. And meanwhile, what I've been doing since leaving public defense in 2010, after 27 years in public defense, 2/3 of my 40-year career, I have been doing death penalty trial work with Jodea Foster, who's now passed on, and most recently my longtime colleague Bob Marshall, and been a DNA consultant in my spare time. I have enjoyed all my relationships with all the execs of CACJ and the staff, God, Tara and Sydney, I love you both so much. Over the years, we've gotten to be so close and worked on so many important things for CACJ. From 2001 on, and I've never found a president I couldn't work with for our love of CACJ, but especially Mia and Phil, Jack and Carlene, Rich, Ted, Ann, Jeff Stein, Chris, Bob Sanger, Matt, Jackie. Thanks to you all, and thanks to the board and all CACJ members. To Dave Wymore for bringing me to Boulder, for Ellen Kreitzberg for bringing me to the Death Penalty College, where I still, whenever I'm there, in faculty or no, take notes extensively from the great faculty we have. And to Judges Moore and Fisher in the District of Columbia, and to Justin Brooks and Susie Arnett and Jack Donaki and Eddie Aquino, thank you for the bridge to the most important out-of-the-box experience of my life, dealing the last 15 or 16 years with the Hawaii Public Defender Office. I know I can't really encapsulate my thanks and how incredible I feel. I admire so many people in CACJ, and my board time in NACDL was a direct action from CACJ. Us doing the spring program, the forensic program with NACDL has been thrilled. Working with Gerald, the pros pro of NACDL programs, I've learned so much, and I continue to learn a lot. I want to thank you all. Thank you for your time and attention. It's a weird year. This is a great honor, and thanks again, CACJ. I'll give you all I've got for as long as I have. Thank you.
2020 was an exceptional year. And in the middle of our experience collectively with this global pandemic, who among us would have had the courage to try a capital case? Not any capital case, but a capital case where the prosecution was trying to kill your client for the alleged killing of a 2-year-old infant after sexually assaulting that infant. Manuel Anthony Lopez, 26 years old, braved the gauntlet, and he did so with an extraordinary team. David Lucio, Kelly Kulik, Michael Ogle, and Christina Reynoso tried and brought victory to this innocent young man. This goes down in the annals of trial victories of trial victories. And for this reason, and to recognize this extraordinarily gifted team of lawyers, dedicated and selfless, I hereby present a special President's Award to the trial team that fought and won the case. Michael?
Thank you, Eric. It wasn't me, it was our team. Our team had the privilege of a lifetime in representing Manuel Lopez, an innocent man who the prosecution tried to execute on sensational charges of murdering a toddler during a sexual assault. We will forever be grateful for his freedom, secured by the not guilty verdicts our jurors returned across the board. And we are thankful to CACJ and you, Eric, President of CACJ. We're thankful to you for this award. Manuel's freedom could only be achieved by an incredible team that worked together and supported each other every step of the way. Christina Reynoso was our paralegal, but that description does not remotely begin to describe the invaluable contributions she provided to Manuel's freedom. Although she was not trained as a mitigation investigator, Christina not only obtained all of the mitigation records we needed, but also excelled at getting family members to open up and divulge unpleasant parts of their family history that nobody else had been able to uncover, not even our mitigation specialists. At many of our team meetings, she educated me about important facts that helped demonstrate Manuel's innocence. facts that I had missed in the voluminous discovery we had reviewed. After joining us for 2 days of mock jury selection using the Colorado method with real jurors, she reviewed hundreds of juror questionnaires that sat through weeks of individual voir dire and helped us rate all of our potential jurors. As always, she was spot on, and her input was critical to obtaining the wonderful jurors who overcame extreme prejudice in finding the truth of Manuel's innocence. And she continued to provide us with valuable input and support throughout the trial. David Lucia was our investigator, but he did much more than just investigate. Like Christina, he was always an equal member of our team. David was able to obtain many critical interviews that led to the presentation of numerous witnesses who contributed to our result. Some of these witnesses were very difficult to locate and were far from cooperative, but every one of them respected David and trusted him, including witnesses who testified for the prosecution, which made it infinitely easier to present their testimony or elicit favorable facts on cross-examination. And when we were running out of hope in our attempts to serve a game-changing witness who had disappeared like a ghost, David worked well with outsiders to save the day by doing what had to be done, even if it was unconventional. There were many times that David's cultural knowledge led him to understand emotional difficulties suffered by Manuel's extended family, issues that I was ignorant of. He responded to them sensitively and on his own time. He genuinely cared for them and they knew it, which once again made our jobs easier. David also testified and did so well, despite the DA's attacks. Our jurors loved him, just like we do. Every member of our team was important to winning Manuel's freedom, but Kelly Kulik is the one who neutralized the DNA, serological, and other evidence from the crime lab that the DA claimed was overwhelming, whose masterful and delicate cross-examination of the toddler's young sister not only exposed the unreliability of her previous complaints about supposed abuse by Manuel, but the bias of other prosecution witnesses, and whose spectacular closing argument brought Manuel home. How amazing was Kelly's closing? Over 160 supporters listened with rapt attention to Kelly's closing on the court's public access channel. And after the verdict, some of the jurors researched her email address on their own. They reached out to her and shared their confidence in Manuel's innocence and appreciation for our efforts. Litigating the first jury trial to take place in California after shelter in place, when the prosecution is trying to kill your innocent client, no less, is challenging enough. And Kelly did it all as a single mother while overcoming the pervasive bias that confronts professional women, especially in the courtroom. Simply put, Kelly is a selfless superstar who is always there for her colleagues while never being anything but humble. Kelly is a true role model for all of us. I've been doing this a long time. As we all know, experience teaches us many things. Winning Manuel's freedom crystallized a few lessons for me personally. No matter who the lawyer, one cannot do it alone. I don't care how brilliant or amazing the lawyer is. The reality is that we perform so much more outstanding work critical to success by nurturing, inspiring, and helping every member of our team to be their best. Devoting 2 hours to help my teammates with their efforts will end up producing exponentially more valuable results than spending those hours on my own preparation. That is not to say I shouldn't prepare fully, but I cannot overstate how important it is to nurture and help each other. There but for the grace of God go I really is the truth. As one of our jurors told Kelly afterwards, I could be Manuel Lopez. Our clients not only have stories that need to be told, but they are valued members of our teams. And that means taking the time to listen to them, share with them, and simply be with them. Don't ever sell yourselves short. Never underestimate what we can do together, even when the prosecution is unethical and the judge is screwing you every step of the way. And be proud of doing it, no matter what others say or whatever happens in the courtroom. There is no greater honor than fighting for the humanity and dignity of our clients. After all, that is why we do what we do. That is our calling. Love and strength to you all.
Good afternoon. I'm Jacqueline Goodman, and it's my honor to introduce to you Neil Katial. He's the former acting Solicitor General under President Obama and received the highest award the Justice Department can bestow upon a civilian. From that to GQ's Man of the Year, Neil has received basically all of the awards, including being named one of the 40 most influential lawyers of the last decade. As acting Solicitor General, he was the federal government's top courtroom lawyer. Today, he occupies the role formerly held by now Chief Justice John Roberts at one of the top Supreme Court firms in the nation. He's argued more than 40 cases before the United States Supreme Court, and I believe I read that he's had 10% of the docket at times. Neil Katial is a New York Times bestselling author and a frequent contributor to MSNBC and the New York Times. He's appeared on virtually every major news program, as well as House of Cards, where he played himself. He's also a distinguished law professor at Georgetown Law and a visiting professor at Harvard and Yale Law Schools. And by the age of 49, he's already argued more Supreme Court cases in US history than any other person of color, breaking the record previously held by Thurgood Marshall. So, let me say, as you've reached the heights of our profession, you've simultaneously dedicated yourself to pro bono work on behalf of the most vulnerable among us, and you've blazed a trail for generations of diverse lawyers to follow. For this and your significant contribution to the development of United States constitutional law, CACJ salutes you. So normally, Neil, we would have a 10-minute standing ovation. It'd be awkward because the last 2 minutes would be me by myself and people trying to make me sit down. There should be lots of applause for you right now. These are strange times.
Well, thank you so much, Jackie. It's just an honor to receive the award and to listen to all those words, which I don't think even my mom would believe, but they're nice to hear anyway. So thank you so much. I'm really honored and really grateful to be here with you.
I should say we are on opposite coasts. You're in DC and I'm in California, and we're in the midst of the pandemic, and so they're extraordinary times. We're actually between the election and the inauguration with newly minted Justice Amy Coney Barrett and a United States Supreme Court heavily influenced by Donald Trump. So now that I have you, even though it's remote, I'm going to ask you if I can ask you a few questions.
Absolutely.
So first off, I was watching. I was looking at your Instagram. You have a hashtag courtside blog on a vlog on Instagram, which is fascinating. I recommend it. But there was a lot going on. There's so many things, and I was thinking that there's not enough time really to be talking with you about all of these things. But I wonder if you might give us sort of a recap of the status of the post-election litigation right now, and particularly as it relates to the Supreme Court, if at all.
Yeah. So the courtside stuff happened because just like a couple of days after the election, I saw that Trump was thinking that he won, insisting that it was massive fraud. I mean, typical Trump stuff. And so I just did like a little short video that I posted on my Instagram, and then Questlove loved it. So then it went viral. So then I decided to do like a little video update every day. So we're on like day 29 now of this madness. And I think the thing that's the most striking is that on any of the 29 days, Trump has never gotten anywhere. I mean, he loses case after case in the most pathetic ways possible. I mean, it's not even, they don't have any good facts, but you'd at least expect them to write well and follow the court rules and stuff like that. They don't do anything right. And I was a
And
junior
they've
lawyer.
been, I'm sorry, there was some procedural problems recently, right? And
Everywhere. I mean, everywhere. They can't even file a notice of appearance correctly. It's really unbelievable. Um, they just filed a lawsuit with plaintiffs who said that they didn't want to be plaintiffs and were never contacted. All kinds of stuff. But fundamentally, Trump has always thought, oh, I have 3 of my justices on the Supreme Court, so he needs 2 more.
right.
And that's just a totally bizarre way to think about the Supreme Court. And I don't think it's going anywhere. I mean, Trump can try, and we'll just have to wait until he brings his cases. But I was a junior lawyer on Bush versus Gore 20 years ago. And this is not Bush versus Gore. This is, in Bush versus Gore, there was 1 state and 537 votes. Here, you've got multiple states that Trump needs to flip and declare fraud in. And the count is never 537. It's always a lot more.
Mhm.
So it's just a mathematical impossibility at this point, a legal impossibility at this point. It's not about Trump trying to actually overturn the election. It's about dollars and cents. He's raised $170 million off this. And someone happened to sign me up for the Trump website on my work email. So I get all of Trump's fundraising information, and it always claims election fraud. But then on the fine print, it says 60% of the donations will go to just paying off his general campaign debt. So I think that's what's going on.
You think it'll just continue until they've squeezed all the contributions they can get?
Until January 20th at 12 p.m. or whatever the day of the time of the day is. But yeah, I think unfortunately we have someone who, just doesn't acknowledge reality in any way, shape, or form.
Interesting. Okay, so moving on, I have a question, and I'm not sure if it's your area of expertise. I mean, you're an expert in everything basically, but on pardons, can a president preemptively pardon his family and friends and himself? And actually this morning I saw something about, there was some question about whether or not the bribery allegations are going to affect whether he can go forward with the pardons that he's expecting. You have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, so there's 2 issues. One is, can he pardon himself? And then the other is, can he pardon prospectively, even when there isn't a pending indictment or anything like that? So on the pardon himself, the best article was written by Brian Kalt in the Yale Law Journal, and it's called Pardon Me. And the basic argument it makes is that a fundamental principle of Anglo-American law is that you can't be a judge in your own case. And it goes back to Dr. Bonham's case in 1610. And that's effectively what a pardon is. It's saying, I can sweep away this thing against me, not against someone else. And so fundamentally, I think he can't pardon himself. That's in fact what the Justice Department concluded in 1974 in a published opinion. That doesn't mean Trump won't try. He will, of course, because he thinks he can do anything. But I think that the new Justice Department will not have to worry about that pardon. It'll be an issue if they do decide to indict him. But in the end, I don't think it's going to be enough of a barrier. And the second question is, can he prospectively pardon either himself or other people, his family, even though they haven't been charged with anything? And there again, I think while the text of the Constitution doesn't impose any limit, I do think that there's a good sense limit on that. I think the idea behind the pardon power is much more about mercy. It's about someone who's been, adjudicated or about to be adjudicated as guilty, and you're dispensing the executive's or the king's grace. But that occurs after an investigation. And to use the pardon power offensively to try and prevent an investigation in the first place strikes me as an abuse of the power. And indeed, today, Judge Michael Ludig, who's a very prominent, now retired judge from the Fourth Circuit, very conservative, brilliant scholar and judge, tweeted out that he thought that this could amount to an obstruction of justice if a president was doing this ahead of time, both for himself and other people.
It's fascinating. It's really interesting. I have a feeling we're going to have some new law on this pretty soon. So it kind of takes me to, dovetails into the next question. Do you think that the makeup of the Supreme Court will have an effect on I mean, what effect, if any, do you think the makeup of this Supreme Court might have on that and other questions regarding criminal justice?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard thing to know right now because it's just changed. I've just argued my first 2 cases over the last month without Justice Ginsburg. I argued 41 cases with her, always there, and it's a real loss. You know, don't just think about it as like left or right or conservative or not, but just she was an incredible, amazing jurist, and we just losing that is it's unfathomable what the consequences will be. And then, yes, the change in composition, going from Justice Ginsburg to Justice Barrett, going from Justice Kennedy to Justice Kavanaugh, really is moving the court in a more conservative direction. And it's really going to be a question that the court is going to struggle with here, is that they've got folks who are, at this point, they're obviously very smart and learned, but probably not where the mainstream of American society is today, and to the right. And how much do they feel comfortable enshrining their views into the law? I mean, when I went to law school, judicial activism was the bogeyman, and it was always like, you know, judges shouldn't impose their preferences, but it was always a criticism of liberal jurists. Mm-hmm. Now the shoe's on the other foot, and it'll be very interesting to see how those folks who talked about the sins of judicial activism now, when they have the power, may say, oh, judicial activism doesn't look so bad. So we'll have to see what happens, you know, but it's a different court, to be sure.
What issues do you think are first on the horizon for this court? Well, I mean, we've got Roe, right?
Yeah, it's unclear what'll be first, but I do think that, you know, the things in which Justice Ginsburg's death are really going to potentially impact the court are reproductive justice rights, you know, Roe versus Wade, or, you know, the smaller issues around Roe. You know, maybe Roe itself won't be overruled, but there'd be a lot of restrictions that could be placed on a woman's right to choose that might now be upheld by the Supreme Court. On matters of criminal justice, Justice Ginsburg was, I think, generally a good vote for criminal defendants, and we don't know where Justice Barrett is. She does come from, I think, a place of some sensitivity on these issues, so I think it's possible to think that she will be a vote on some good things, and I'm holding hope out for the death penalty. This is something that I've thought for many years, that America is behind standards of humanity and civilization in what we're doing, and who gets the death penalty. Even if in some abstract world it should be used, we don't give it to the worst people. I mean, as Stephen Bright said in the title of a Yale Law Journal article, he said the death penalty, not for the worst crime, but for the worst lawyer. And, you know, that has struck me in watching this at both the state and federal level as totally right on. Mm-hmm. And so I'm hopeful that a Justice Barrett will look at this and with her colleagues say, the time has come. This is not who we are as Americans. And the Eighth Amendment speaks of cruel and unusual punishment. And unlike other clauses in the Constitution, that word unusual shows that things are meant to evolve, and the meaning of the document is supposed to change, regardless of what you think about judicial activism. And at this point, the death penalty is an unusual punishment, mm-hmm. and it's meted out not on the worst crime, but on other factors that shouldn't be present, and chief among them, of course, race.
That's fascinating, and you bring up the composition of the Supreme Court now. What, if anything, do you think the Biden administration may do? I mean, we've heard about, you know, packing the court, and President-elect Biden during his campaign had pivoted a little bit to say, I'm open to different ideas, kind of hearkening back to the Pete Buttigieg ideas of getting a cohort together to talk about possibilities. Do you have any ideas about what you think the Biden administration might do with the Supreme Court moving forward, or do you think we're likely to stay with what we think we know?
Well, for better or worse, I think all of the ideas that were being whispered into Biden's ears about increasing the size of the Supreme Court or 18-year terms or this or that aren't going anywhere just by the simple fact that the Republicans look like they will control the Senate. And if the Republicans control the Senate, then it just becomes probably pretty unlikely to see any major structural changes. And so I think the best thing the Biden administration can do is figure out a litigation strategy of how to win their cases in this Supreme Court. And that involves, sometimes moderating some of the policy decisions on the front end. And it involves, really on the back end, on the litigation side, getting the very best people who understand how the US Supreme Court thinks to defend the Biden administration's programs.
Excellent. Interesting. Thank you so much. I look forward to the day that I'm celebrating your enrobing on the Supreme Court.
You've been looking for a long time.
Neil, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to see you. And
You
thank
too.
you, everyone.
Take care.
Welcome to our 2020 President's Award presentation. This year, we have a long list of awardees, and every single one has done their part. First of all, I'd like to present the President's Awards to our past presidents, 3 of whom will be receiving awards this year. Past Presidents Stein, Reese, and Goodman. Jeff, for your wise and generous service as chair of CACJ's nominations committee and your faultless counsel and guidance, thank you, my most esteemed friend, for being exemplary of this essential CACJ office this year. It's so important, the work that you do. For Stephen Reese, our past president, and his unwavering support through the 2020 legislative year, his superb acumen, his quick analytical reserve, and stalwart adherence to our core principles. You're commended for this most deserving President's Award. And to past President Jackie Goodman, going above and beyond and carrying the burdens of your past president's rank and office. Your key contributions to our seminars, our public awareness, and our COVID issues this year have commended you and distinguished you as worthy of such an award. Jeff, do you have anything you'd like to say at this time?
It's been the longest relationship of my professional life, being involved in CACJ, and the most rewarding, seeing great things done and being able to have some small part in contributing to it.
Past President Reese.
Thank you. Thank you for the award. And I join in Jeff that being part of CACJ, in my case, going back to 1977, has been one of the most satisfying professional part of my work, and the chance to work with all of the people that I've had the opportunity to work with in CACJ, many of whom are here today. I can't think of anything that equals that. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for your constant support and just being there. Jackie, your turn.
Thank you. Well, thank you for the award and what Jeff said, and Steve. I think we all have a special relationship with CACJ, and I know for me, it's just been my honor and privilege to be able to work alongside such amazing people. I think each of you, for sometimes similar reasons and often individually for your own spectacular input, each of you really embodies the things that I hope to achieve someday. Best of putting our best intellect and our best efforts and our love and our passion to helping other people who very much deserve it. And I've found that that's been just such an honor, and I'm very grateful for that and grateful for this award, Eric.
Well, thank you. And thank you, past President Goodman, for all you did in your year as presidency to smooth my year in 2020 and make it possible for CACJ to do the work that we've done in 2020. by upgrading our technological abilities and all of our infrastructure during your tenure brings me to our next awardees. Committee chairs Horowitz and Feinberg are both with us. And I'm presenting them with the President's Award for their unfailing vigilance in all matters technical, their contributions to the improvement of CACJ's communications infrastructure, and assembling, organizing, and effectively disseminating our core doctrine to the membership. Doug, is there anything you'd like to say?
I just wanted to thank both you and Jackie for having it set up. Thank you, because I had some ideas in terms of setting up a brief bank and the technology stuff. And actually, I was very surprised at how quickly that ended up being done. And it's available and it's working. So thank you very much.
And Rick Horowitz, our champion necktie, knot tire, and clothing coordinator of the year award goes to you as well. Rick?
Thank you. Arthur I.C. Robledo, whose work I love to read in Spanish because he writes so simply and clearly, says the best investment that we can make is to put our time and effort into building up the mind. Putting time and effort into the work of CACJ has helped me to build my lawyer mind, because it surrounds me with smart, hardworking lawyers who, like all of you, just by being who they are, continually push me to improve. And while I'm not sure the work I've done justifies an award, one thing is for sure: it serves only to make me want to kick things up another notch and see what I can do in this next year. Thank you for this award.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Next, our flagship committee chairs, Briggs and Batchelder. Unfortunately, Elias couldn't be with us today, but David Briggs is, and this is being awarded to both for their stalwart work on the Legislative Committee. Efficient, clever, and unfailing leadership, rising to every challenge that 2020 could send you. Your strategic efforts and gifted leadership have engrafted historic measures to our CACJ legacy.
Thank you, Eric. On behalf of Eli and myself, it's been a great privilege and a tremendous thrill to be co-chair in the Ledge Committee this year. I've been on the Ledge Committee for about 8 years. This has been our most successful year, and we are very much looking forward to the next legislative session. We have several plots afoot to improve California law even more than we have already. I want to particularly shout out to Eli, though, because he spearheaded the successful drive to get AB 3070 passed. That's a historic bill that's really going to help remove racial bias in jury selection. So thanks again, and avanti.
A gifted and dynamic duo. Thank you. With us, we have our amicus chair, Mr. Dunkel, and also our amicus chair emeritus, Phillipsborn, and emeritus. John, thank you for coming, for your unfailing discretion in maintaining the keen focus of our amicus objectives as leaders of this essential committee on the frontier of law. Your selfless efforts, and I do mean selfless, you both give so much to this, continue to lay the groundwork for our future and the future benefit of all citizens in the state of California. John, we'd like to hear from you.
Eric, thank you. It's nice to see a number of old friends on this or in this meeting. I also want to underscore my appreciation of Steve as the chair of this committee going forward. Being probably the oldest surviving committee chair or vice chair or whatever I am now, having done this for more than 30 years, I do want to indicate that we really, the CACJ Amicus Committee really benefits from input from all of you on this particular meeting, but also from all of the CACJ contributors to amicus efforts. And we especially would like to reach out to newer members and the younger members and encourage them to be involved in the amicus committee work, which is really one of the major contributions of this organization. So thank you very much.
Stephen?
Thanks, Eric. It's an honor to do this work for CACJ and to get to do it with John. Echoing what John said, I do want to thank some of the contributors we had this year, in particular, a couple of board members, Sarah Ross and Eli Batchelder, stepped up and made significant contributions. So thank you.
It's a team effort. Thank you all. Next, to our esteemed board member, Logan Mckechnie is with us for his alert and unfailing wisdom and support at every crossroads and crisis. Your life experience, your kind demeanor have been key to CACJ's achievements this year. And this small token of recognition is well earned by you.
Thank you very much, Ed. I've been a member for over 40 years. I always watched everybody else contribute and contribute well. I hope that I can give a little bit back for what you've given me in a lifetime. And this COVID will go away. Thank you.
Thank you. Also receiving a President's Award this year, and a well-deserved one, is our Executive Director, Stephen Munkelt, for being our wheelhouse leader in 2020. Mr. Munkelt's tactical and strategic awareness, his diplomatic genius, and decisive actions are commended and remembered by way of this award. I don't believe that Mr. Munkelt is joining us, but I'm sure you'll see him elsewhere at this seminar. And last but not least, to my esteemed law partner, Annie Davidian, for her selfless service and her verity. Annie provided a declaration in Criswell et al. Versus Bedreau, one of our lawsuits over jail conditions that is in progress and so far has been very, very successful, proving essential to our unprecedented successes in that historic affray and elsewhere. Her many personal sacrifices and the courage shown in her fight against injustice with CACJ. I warmly and sincerely commend you, Annie.
Thank you, Eric. I'm very, very humbled that you have acknowledged this and me in this way. The December seminar, when we all gather together, is always the seminar for me that is the boost that I think so many of us need to get through to the new year. And it's just refreshing that we can all still gather under these times to do that. I'm so honored to be amongst you. And Eric, I can't thank you enough for guiding this group the way that you have, in the way that you have, under the conditions that you have. You are a true warrior, and it's an honor to be your partner. So thank you.
Likewise. Folks, that concludes our President's Awards for the year 2020. We'll see you again in 2021. This has been a really terrific seminar so far, and there's more. And I want to thank each and every faculty member for their generosity and for making it so, particularly my dear friend and past president, Mia Yamamoto, for giving me so much over the years and for giving us one of the finest Gary lectures in the history of CACJ. Again, none of this would be possible without your ongoing support and enthusiasm for the advancement of our criminal justice ideals that we all share. I hope to see you all next year in San Francisco, where we can renew our friendship and maybe have a cocktail or a meal together as usual. Until then, have a safe and joyful holiday season and a very prosperous new year. Now, I'm pleased to introduce CACJ's new president, Miss Allison Zuvela from Yolo County. Allison is many things: a stalwart CACJ officer whose wise counsel has often been there for me and essential for me. A highly experienced defense lawyer who has distinguished herself time and again in CACJ's past battles. She is one of those amazing women who managed to be not only a hero of the courtroom, but also a loving mom. I give you Allison Zuvela.
Thank you for this honor, and I am proud to be the 2021 CACJ president. A year ago, I remember sitting at the Hotel Nico in San Francisco at this annual seminar, and I could not have imagined all of the changes that have happened over the last year. 2020 has had many, many hardships. The holidays will be different for many people, not being able to see their loved ones. There are no concerts, no theaters, no Disneyland, not even the Olympics. But just as people have adapted, so has CACJ. We have had to pivot to a virtual presentation for our annual seminar. I do acknowledge that 2020 has been difficult. Over 250,000 people have died and countless others have gotten sick. And 2020 has claimed icons like Ruth Bader Ginsburg and John Lewis. But as Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, so often in life, things that you regard as an impediment turn out to be great, good fortune. I don't know if 2020 is great, but it has been a time to move forward, and CACJ has moved forward. Eric Schweitzer has said, CACJ has not only thrived in 2020, we have achieved historic advancements in criminal justice. Spurred by the necessities of the global pandemic, CACJ's leadership has materially impacted all three branches of government with historic legislation, litigation, and leadership. CACJ has moved forward with legislative achievements in spite of this pandemic-reduced budget and legislative session. We have moved forward by pivoting to a virtual platform instead of our normal live seminars. We have moved forward by increased collaboration with our allies, such as the litigation that we had with ACLU to argue for the release of inmates. And I do want to thank and acknowledge Eric and Stephen Munkelt for their leadership and all of those who have participated in the CACJ committees. We could not have achieved our goals without robust participation of our members. John Lewis said, "Do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful, be optimistic." CACJ stands for those optimistic ideals. CACJ supports and defends all people's rights. CACJ advocates for the independence of criminal defense lawyers and aims to improve the quality of the administration of justice. CACJ does just not talk, it acts. Please join us in our work. If you're not a member, please join. CACJ's strategic plan is simple yet complex. It has 3 pillars: educate, advocate, and sustain. With CACJ's strategic plan, we strive to empower you to be the best that you can be. The pendulum has swung from the inhumanity of lock them up and throw away the key to the reforms that we are seeing and still have work to do in the areas of rehabilitation, reentry, and redemption. For 47 years, CACJ has been one of the leaders in criminal justice. This year, CACJ-sponsored AB 3070 was passed with the aim to eliminate bias in jury selection. CACJ continues to lead by providing high-quality MCLE events, such as this one. With the death of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Stephon Clark, and countless others, it sparked a national movement and CACJ has been a part of that grassroots movement. CACJ has advocated for police accountability and set out a platform for police reform proposals. We will push to eliminate police brutality and systemic racism in the criminal justice system. I've heard from others that bail reform is dead. I disagree. CACJ will continue to champion ending pretrial incarceration on a cash bail basis. For as long as CACJ has existed, it has been an agent of change. I'm proud to be a part of that change and help guide the movement in 2021. John Lewis said, when you see something that's not right, not just, not fair, you have a moral obligation to say something, to do something. Join CACJ, participate in CACJ, be part of that real change. If you don't know where to begin, email me. I will help get you involved. In 1992, I was a law student and studying abroad in Aix-en-Provence. I had the honor to learn from Justice Harry Blackmun. Each student had their one-on-one with Justice Blackmun and his wife, Dottie. Mine was an eventful dinner with eggplant parmesan, wine, and discussions. We spoke not only of the law, but of heroes. You see, everyone needs a hero. We need those to look up to emulate, to follow. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a hero of mine. She said, real change, enduring change, happens one step at a time. It happens with CACJ and you. Thank you.
So that wraps up our luncheon program. I hope you've all enjoyed your luncheon at the NICO as much as I have. Please enjoy the remaining programs, and I look forward to seeing you all next year. For over 45 years, California Attorneys for Criminal Justice has been California's premier association of criminal defense lawyers.
Since its inception, CACJ has been leading the charge for California criminal defense lawyers, fighting on behalf of our members, our clients, and the cause of justice in our state.
CACJ has led the charge on every front, training our members with the highest quality MCLE programs around, providing weekly updates on developments in criminal justice through CACJ Flash, providing quick answers and far-reaching support through our community listserv, protecting our members through our Contempt Defense Task Force, and assisting with significant appellant issues through our amicus briefing, and providing in-depth analysis and cutting-edge information through the newly revamped Forum magazine.
And now, with our latest tools, such as the modernized website, CACJ provides more resources than ever before, including a searchable brief bank, an invaluable resource for the private practitioner.
All of this and more, along with our searchable member database, keep CACJ lawyers the most informed, connected, and supported group of defenders in the country.
But that's just the start. CACJ has been at the forefront in the fight for criminal justice reform.
What we do affects every person in this state, and our criminal justice reforms are looked to as a model for change throughout our nation.
In the last 5 years alone, CACJ has successfully sponsored or supported incredible criminal justice reform legislation, ranging from tiered sex offender registration to the elimination of prison priors, from the elimination of mandatory imposition of gun enhancements to the revision of the felony murder rule, from reducing punishments for drug offenses to the requirement of counsel for juveniles prior to Miranda waivers, from the elimination of drug sales priors to the establishment of statutory veterans diversion, and dozens upon dozens more.
All this to say nothing of the draconian legislation that has been defeated in the legislature thanks to the efforts of the CACJ lobby.
If you've ever practiced criminal law here in California, you've benefited from CACJ.
But we need your help. What makes all of this great work all possible is membership.
The greater our membership, the more we can achieve on behalf of our criminal defense lawyers, our clients, and the cause of justice.
Now, more than ever, it's our time to make a difference.
So join us.
Join us in the fight for true criminal justice.